Hello, hello. Greetings, Galactic Jedis. How's everyone doing out there? I apologize for the delay. Again, technical difficulties is the norm here when it comes to trying to go live on this thing I'm a jig called a laptop. So primitive, primitive to our inner technology, right? Anyways, before I go into the deep subject about the Holy Grail mysteries and who the Knights Templars were and their relationship to the concept of the priority of Zion, first and foremost, I want to welcome everyone that decided to spend their Wednesday evening with me tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I also want to let you guys know that I put out a video, I think within the last day, with Underground Patriot, who asked some amazing questions. He really got a lot of information out of me. So if you guys haven't had an opportunity to watch my interview with Underground Patriot, make sure that you do. One second. There we go. I was trying to level my laptop here so that way it could be straight. How's everyone doing out there? Happy Wednesday. So yeah, check out the my interview with Underground Patriot. Apparently, he was banned from UFLA or whatever it's called, YouTube. And like many people are nowadays. Luckily, I have some sort of protection here. But the whole point is that he is now in Rumble, and he had an opportunity to interview a lot of people besides myself. But the interview that he had me on was phenomenal. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch it, watch it. Now, I also put out a short regarding self-reflection. Self-reflection is key. Self-reflection is key. As without, as within, without, as without, within. It's all a reflection of what's going on internally. When you really think about the way everything boils down to your own inner beliefs and really how you feel about yourself, that will determine the external environment around you. So I decided to read some of these articles regarding the mysteries of the Holy Grail, Holy Blood, which was a concept that was actually introduced to a world back in, I believe, 2000, when Dan Brown decided to publish his book, The Da Vinci Code. I think that was around the first time that the general public had a taste of secret societies and, the concept of why they have these secret societies. So according to my research, I come to unravel that not all secret societies are evil. In fact, some of these secret societies that have existed throughout the millenniums were actually benevolent. They were guardians of ancient artifacts. They were also the protectors of an ancient bloodline. And yes, the Holy Grail is not a chalice the way they want us to believe. It's actually a lineage that could be traceable back to not only Jesus and Mary Magdalene, but of course, Solomon and King David. And so it's also revolving around the idea of the great mother goddess, the Black Madonna, which was venerated by the Knights of the Temple, to them within their benevolent societies. They pretty much knew the fact that Mother God, really an all-nurturing principle, the sacred divine feminine, was actually the creator of everything that is, when you consider the fact that even the creator sons of local universes were born from a womb. So I wanted to say that the Knights Templars are shrouded in mystery. Some people want to throw them under the bus and say, well, they worshipped Baphomet and they were Satanists and they were into witchcraft. Not necessarily. That's, again, the dark side always rewrites history. So they try to throw them under the bus, making them believe or making them look like if they're evil or bad. But in essence, they were the rebels of the Dark Ages, medieval times. They were the only true seekers of the ancient mystery school teachings, which could be traceable back to ancient Egypt. Now, if you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty, before I start reading these articles, there are three things that are associated regarding the Knights Templars. Well, first and foremost, their connections to what they call the priority of Zion. What is the priority of Zion? Well, nowadays we take the terminology of Zion and we flip it And it actually means what? The free world, right? It's nothing to do with political Zionists and Khazarians. Those are not the Zionists of those that are related to the Abrahamic lineages. Um, Unfortunately, everything was inverted by the dark side, but the whole concept of the priority of Zion, according to a lot of these records that have been unearthed, is the fact that they were protecting a grail, the grail, which is the holy blood, right? The holy blood of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. They were also protecting lost and ancient knowledge that was excavated out of the ruins of Solomon's temple. As the story goes, King Solomon the Wise, who was a white magician, had access to tremendous amount of information and knowledge. Not only was he a white wizard, he was an alchemist, an astrologer, and he, had a lot of wisdom, to the point where other people from other countries would pay royalties to Solomon because of his intense and profound wisdom. Well, it turns out that Solomon laid down the foundation and the concept of freedom of the republic, the Constitution that we know today as the United States government. Well, in its original inception, of course, now we know that it's a plutocracy run by the rich corporations when they hijacked it. But in its original makeup, this whole concept of having a constitutional republic was actually outlined by no other than Solomon. And Solomon knew that the time would come after, experiencing long dark ages due to the Babylonian control of our planet, right? With the rise of the different empires, Solomon knew that one day a group of his descendants in the near future would have a vision or be prompted or have a calling to go back to the ancient ruins of Solomon's temple and excavate not only the treasures that Solomon left behind, which is another concept that is related to the idea of the priority of Zion, but also excavate all of the ancient teachings, from ancient metaphysical knowledge to alchemy to sacred geometry to astrogeny, which is even where astrology was derived from, to divination, to the idea of working with higher evolved beings like the angels, the ascended masters, the secrets of immortality, the whole concept of the fountain of youth, the philosopher's stone. All that information was preserved deep within the temple ruins of the Solomon temple. And they were preserved in order to keep the Babylonian Brotherhood from having access to it. So luckily, the Knights Templars, the original Knights Templars, which were 9 Frenchmen, decided to excavate that information before it got into the hands of the Vatican, who, of course, were the reorganized Babylonian, disguised under a new name, that ushered in the Dark Ages. So pretty much, they were the original White Knights. We talk about the Earth Alliance and the White Hats today, but let's go back to the history of the bloodline and the significance that is related to as to why there is so much controversy regarding this ancient bloodline. Is it true or is it not true? And if it is true, does that pose a danger to the organized Orthodox Christian church, in the sense where all the archbishops, the popes, the pastors, and all those ministers would indeed have to step down if and so there is truth to the concept of this divine holy blood? Okay, so with no further ado, I would like to read some of these articles regarding some of this suppressed information. So the first article I want to read is the Knights Templars were actually founded during the Crusades in the 12th century, were a military and religious order dedicated to protecting Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land. Of course, that was an excuse because of the fact that back then, the Holy Roman Empire, under their new name, right, Holy Roman Church, were conducting military expeditions in the name of God, killing off anyone that didn't align with their Orthodox Christian beliefs. And so, of course, the Knights Templars had to make them believe that that's what they were doing. So in a way, they infiltrated the church from within. And it was until this character by the name of Bernard de Clairvaux, who became the primary advisor to the Pontiff Vicar, that decided to charter the Knights. And that's why the reason why the Knights were concealed as the true enemies of the Vatican during medieval times because they infiltrated the church in order to, charter the knights and not, of course, wipe them out in the early killing in the name of God, right? In the early bloodshed that took place. Of course, later we come to find out, 700 years later, when the Vatican finally figured out that they were played by no other than the Knights Templars through Philip the Bell, who was, again, working for the Illuminati bloodlines. Eventually they were persecuted. But before we get to that point, so they were organized in the 12th century, were a military and religious order dedicated to protecting Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land. Their historical connection to the Holy Grail is a recurrent theme in legends, suggesting they were guardians of the Grail, whether an artifact or a bloodline. And again, that is the biggest thing surrounding the greatest secret that these benevolent organizations were protecting. But I believe that the fact that they want to replace the chalice with the bloodline was to no further than to what? Continue the protection of who those descendants are today. And I will read, in fact, how many descendants of the Holy Grail exist and are living among us as I speak, as regular commoners like you and me, all right? They're not born with a silver spoon in their hands. So the several theories proposes that the Templars discovered and protected the Grails during the Crusades. One legend asserts they found the Grail in Jerusalem beneath the Temple Mount, where they established a stronghold. Another theory aligns with the living Grail concept, suggesting the Templars safeguarded the secrets of Jesus Christ's lineage. In 1307, the Templars faced dissolution when King Philip IV of France accused them of heretical practices and blasphemy. Again, this was the inverted version that was implemented by no other than Opus Dei, the Jesuits, right? The inner intelligentsia of the Vatican, who are really the cabal during medieval times. Excuse me. So one legend asserts that they found the Grail in Jerusalem beneath the Temple Mount, where they established a stronghold. Another theory aligns with the living Grail concept, suggesting the Templars safeguarded the secrets of the lineage of Christ. In 1307, they faced dissolution when King Philip IV of France accused them of heretical practices and blasphemy. Tortured, induced confessions led to their demise, with many members executed, including their leader, Jacques de Molay, who allegedly cursed his accusers before his death. Despite the official dissolution, some Templars fled and found refuge in other orders, contributing to the speculation about their continued influence. Of course, we do know that after the disbanding and dissolution of the Knights Templar, a part of them decided to continue the quest of the millennial project of eventually establishing a constitutional republic through the original founding fathers. And that explains why some of them reorganized in Scotland as the original Masons, who were actually the good Masons. A lot of people seem to throw Freemasonry under the bus, but they fail to recognize that our founding fathers, who were part of the good guys, right, the white knights of old, were the original Masons. And then, of course, another chunk of them reorganized as what? The Pirates, the Brotherhood of the Coast. And there is a battle that took place between the Brotherhood of the Coast and no other than the fleets of the Vatican, right? For what? For the gold. See, the Vatican would send people to the Americas to excavate gold and bring it back to the crown. So what did the pirates do? The pirates would always hijack those ships and then take that gold and then go hide it in some of these isolated islands. So this is where we get the concept of X marks the spot. So the original pirates were actually good. They were the reorganized and camouflaged remnants of the Knights Templars. All right, so there's more. So the Holy Grail. Okay, so according to the Christian tradition, the Holy Grail is most common linked to the Last Supper, where Jesus is believed to have used a cup to share with wine with his disciples. The Grail then became associated with divine power, purity, and the quest for spiritual enlightenment. Now, this is another important character who many believed was the keeper and the protector of the survived Jesus Christ, the Jesus Christ who supposedly survived the crucifixion. It is, okay, so according to some information, they believe that Christ was so embedded in martial arts and mind over matter, right? He was an alchemist. He was an ascended being. He had fully mastered his emotions and his mind and his body. He was able to undergo the pain. And after a while, when the Romans left, his followers took him down from the cross while he was still alive, and they took away the nails, and then they used a natural remedies to heal him. And so, you know, according to this part of history that was suppressed, he survived the crucifixion, and he grew, or not grew, but he ended up dying as an old man in India. And many believe that one of the greatest secrets that the Knights Templars were hiding were the fact that he survived the crucifixion. He fled to India, where he had children, and I think one of his daughters was Sarah. And then, of course, after he passed away from old age, according to secret legends, it is believed that later Mary Magdalene and Joseph of Arimathea, who he left in charge, who was another member of the Essene order, by the way. Again, these are the reorganized remnants of the Essenes, of the Brotherhood and Sisterhood of the Quoram community. All right, so these were the original, we could say the original priority of Zion. The real name was the Holy Order of the Grail, if you want to get technical. So again, the word Zion, was inverted by the Cabal to mean, something else, when in essence it's really something that means the free world. So Joseph of Arimathea was actually one of the main figures when it came to the protection of the greatest secrets, which is the Holy Grail. So in the Bible, particularly in the accounts of the crucifixion and the burial of Jesus, according to the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Joseph of Arimathea was a wealthy disciple of Jesus and part of the community of Qumran. He was an Essene. An Essene was the benevolent secret society that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were a part of during those days, as they secluded themselves from the rest of the corrupt, surface world, right? Where everything was run by the Roman Empire, right? So to give you an example, so who was the Cabal during those days? Well, they were known as the Sanhedrin, and they were run by the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who are no different than today's Orthodox fundamentalist, religious organizations, right? It's just under a new name. So the community of Qumran had to seclude themselves from the rest of the world in order to keep their teachings in purity from falling into the hands of the wicked, right? Or from those that would corrupt it, because part of their teachings was, of course, the ascension, the activation of the light body, in how to reach immortal status once again. So the most significant mention of Joseph of Arimathea is in the context of the burial of Jesus. After Jesus' crucifixion, Joseph went to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, to request permission to take Jesus' body for burial. Pilate granted his request, and Joseph, along with Nicodemus, another disciple, wrapped Jesus' body in a clean linen cloth and placed it in a tomb. This is the bloodline of Jesus in the Bible. So I guess, according to this article, there is a metaphor that was encrypted in the New Testament, in one of the 4 books, according to this article. So Matthew began Jesus' lineage with Abraham. It is believed, of course, Abraham was the progenitor of this bloodline, if you want to go further beyond Solomon and King David, and named each father in 41 generations, ending in Matthew 1:6, chapter 1, verse 6. And Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who was called Christ. Joseph descended from King David through his son Solomon. All right, so what is not in the Bible is the fact that the Jesus bloodline refers to the proposition that a lineal sequence of the historical Jesus has persisted, possibly to the present day. The claims frequently describe Jesus as having married, often to Mary Magdalene, and as having descendants living in Europe, especially in France, but also in the UK. Now, check this out, guys. Okay. There are living descendants today who are a secretive organization that, I guess, a function of the priority of Zion, who I believe is no other than the White Hats. Think about it. Why? The Kennedys, Princess Diana, the Trumps, they're all part of the lineage of King David. It all is connected to the heroic missions of the Knights Templars. Think about it. So, according to this document, a secretive organization that still continues to exist today has released a surprising statement claiming to identify, are you ready for this number? 8,978 living descendants of Jesus Christ today. Let me repeat that. Okay? 8,878 living descendants of Jesus Christ that exist today in the presence. The document signed by its Grand Master, Louis Edouard de Belay, suggests that the organization needs help protecting these descendants from harm. Think about it. Why did you think JFK Jr. faked his death and went to Mars, right? He went off-world. They protected him. Why do you think, Princess Diana faked her death? It's all related. It's all related to what I'm reading about. So it alleges. So these descendants need to be protected from harm. It alleges that over the past decade, more than 4,000 descendants have been killed by the Opus Dei and their allies. Well, who is the Opus Dei and their allies? Who has always sought to kill any lineage of this bloodline? Who? The Vatican. Opus Dei. Opus Dei is again, it's the inner intelligentsia of the Vatican, and many believe that they are no other than the Jesuits, the ones that have been running the cabal for the last 500 years. Of course, now we know it's the Octagon group, right? As we go into this technocratic dystopia that they want to throw us in. But let me continue. Opus Dei and their allies. While some doubt the document's legitimacy, experts suggest it should be taken seriously, noting the organization's recent struggles. Okay, so the descendants spread across 47 countries. So that means that the true descendants of ancient Israel are not in Palestine, like I've said in other interviews, and they're not the Jews of Israel. According to this, and according to the protectors of this lineage, they exist in 47 countries. So they're spread out throughout the world, obviously, in order to protect their lineage. And, again, this information, when it becomes released to the general public, that's going to mark the end of organized religion, at least the Judaic, Christian, Muslim traditions, as we know it. Let's see, 47 countries, and are largely unaware of their lineage. So these descendants that are spread across 47 countries, most of them are not even aware that they're part of this lineage. The countries hosting the largest numbers of alleged descendants are, ready for this? The United States, the largest countries. Let me read that again. Hosting the largest alleged descendants of this lineage is in the United States with exactly 891. So 891 descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene live in the States. I guess I just revealed that to the public, but you know what? They do have special protection, not only by the Earth Alliance, which is the reorganized, I believe, the reorganized Templars, but they also have interdimensional protection from other beings. Okay, so France has 583. So about 583 exist in France, or they live in France. The Palestinian territories have about 518. All right, I didn't say Israel, I said Palestinian territories. And then get this, in Germany with about 429. So 429 descendants live in Germany. And then according to this document, the priority hopes to raise awareness to safeguard them. So apparently there was a reorganization of what used to be called the Priority of Zion, the Holy Order of the Grail. And I believe that they are the continuing White Knights of today. The White Knights of old, of 1,500 years ago, right? When they reorganized in France, are no other than the same people that are protecting, people like Princess Diana, JFK Jr., and the Trumps. And of course, all these other descendants who have no clue who they are, all right? And apparently, there is power in their blood. There is power in that blood. If you are a direct descendant of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, you have access to some pretty gnarly abilities. That's all I can say. All right, let's continue. Okay, so this is by Lewis Wolf. The legend of the Holy Grail is deeply intertwined with historical narratives, mythology, and religious beliefs. The Holy Grail is often depicted as a powerful artifact with miraculous abilities. Of course, we know that's up front in order to hide the Holy Grail, right, which is a lineage of people. The Holy Grail is often depicted as a powerful artifact with miraculous abilities, such as granting eternal life, abundance, healing, and unlimited youth. Well, we do know that was the concepts that were related to what? The Philosopher's Stone, right? The Fountain of Youth, the secrets of immortality. Think about it. Why wouldn't the White Knights, under the guise of the Knights Templars, hide the secrets of immortality and the Millennial Project that later became the Constitutional Republic of our United States government from the Vatican? Because if this information would have gotten to the Vatican 1,500 years ago, guys, or even 1,000 years ago, the Reformation would have never happened. The Renaissance would have never happened. The scientific revolution, and of course the establishment of our Constitution, which of course now it's all run by deep state anyways. But the whole point is that this whole concept to resurrect the republic, which hasn't existed in over 2,500 years, the last republic, if you read the truth about the Republic of Greece, which was overseen by Solon of Athens, that dates back to 2,500 years ago. We haven't had a republic for 2,500 years. That's kind of, that's not a good thing. Okay. And now they want to destroy our Constitution, right? All right. So let me continue. So the Grail legend. Where am I? So in Christian tradition, the Grail is associated with the chalice used by Jesus Christ during the Last Supper and to collect his blood during the crucifixion. Well, that's why I don't believe in drinking the blood, metaphorically speaking, like the wine of Jesus, and eating his body. That's cannibalism. That's what the Catholic Church does. And all those other religions that implement the Eucharist. It's called the Eucharist. When you're drinking the wine as representing the blood of the Christ, and you're eating that bread or that wafer that they give you, representing the body of the Christ, you're a cannibal. You're a cannabinoid, whatever it's called. It's cannibalism. All right, it's evil, and that's what the Catholic Church has been doing. Okay, so the Grail legend gained prominence through the works like Merlin by Robert de Baron and Parsifal by Chartain de Troyes and Wolfram von Escabach. These tales involved legendary figures like King Arthur and his knights embarking on a quest for the Holy Grail, portrayed as a spiritual and initiatory journey filled with trials. Joseph of Arimathea, a biblical character, is introduced as the guardian of the Holy Grail. In some versions, according to the legends, Arimathea fled to England. Think about it. Why do you guys think King Arthur was the only one that was able to excavate the Excalibur sword? That was in another myth tale. Think about it. Part of that lineage went to England. Part of that lineage then later reorganized in the northern Spain region, where it meets with southern France, and then of course later Portugal, and then they just reorganized as the pirates to protect the lineage. But some of them went to England. I believe that some of them went to Scotland too, which is where we get the Stuart dynasty of no other than Diana, Princess Diana. So Joseph of Arimathea, a biblical character, is introduced as the guardian of the Holy Grail in some versions. According to the legends, Arimathea fled to England, founding the first British Christian society in Glastonbury. The Grail is sometimes associated with the bloodline of Christ, suggesting that descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, known as the Living Grail, carry special powers and royalty within their blood. And that's why they've always been the biggest threat to the other counter bloodline that has been running the show for almost 6,000 years from Babylon, right? The reptilian, human, Canaanite, Nimrod, Asu bloodline, as I call it. Those are the bad guys. They've always been trying to do away with the other bloodline. Okay, so the Merovingian dynasty, ruling France from the 5th century to the 8th century, is linked to the Grail legend, claiming descent from Jesus and Mary Magdalene through the Sangreal. And again, the word Sangreal is a French terminology describing the Holy Grail. However, historical evidence supporting this claim is debated among scholars. So Wolfram von Eschenbach introduced a new dimension to the Grail legend, depicting the Grail as a stone known as the Lapis Exilis, or exile stone. This stone, said to have fallen from the sky, possessed healing properties and granted wishes. It symbolized spiritual redemption, and seekers had to be virtuous and pure in heart in order to approach it. Well, that's another metaphor hiding the truth about the holy lineage, the Holy Grail lineage that manifested in the form of King Arthur. Right? So King Arthur was real. You know, Excalibur was real. Merlin is real. And guess what? Guess who Merlin later became? The Count Saint Germain. Same guy, right? Whose fractal today is 45. Let's see. So I'm putting all the dots here, all the pieces together for you guys here. So you guys could have a better understanding of hidden history. So let's see. Wolfram von Eschenbach introduced a new dimension to the Grail. The Grail legends share similarities with other mythical stories, such as the Shin-Tanami stone in Asia and the Emerald of Lucifer. Where does that come from? Seeking the Grail, akin to alchemical pursuits, involves inner purification and virtue. The concept aligns with the Latin acronym vitriol, encouraging seekers to visit the interior of the earth and rectifying. You will find the hidden stone for ultimate wisdom. Okay. Let's see. One more story, I believe. Let's see. All right. So what is the relation to King Arthur? Apparently, we know that Joseph of Arimathea protected a part of that lineage that manifested in the form, or went to England, and I believe it manifested in the form of King Arthur, as I shall read. As King Arthur established his round table. By the way, the reason King Arthur had 12 knights, because it is a mimic of the ancient order of Melchizedek, of the priesthood of Ur, which is where Abraham's people, or his descendants, his ancestors originated. All right. So the original bloodline goes back to the forefathers of Abraham. And then, of course, Abraham was the main figure through his children that continue that bloodline into the present moment. So let's see. So King Arthur established his round table, a fellowship of noble knights embarked on a quest for the Holy Grail, believed to be the cup used by Jesus during the Last Supper and possessing extraordinary powers. Galahad, the purest of heart, proved worthy of the Holy Grail, showcasing its mystical powers associated with healing, nourishment, and divine revelations. However, the quest was fraught with challenges, including betrayals, temptations, and moral dilemmas that tested the knight's commitment. On the journey for the Grail, Sir Parzival, known for his virtue, reached the castle of the Fisher King. Who is the Fisher King? Christ. Christ is known as the Fisher, the Fisher King, in a sense where this is another metaphor describing his descendants, the Fisher Kings, right? Princess Diana, she comes from the lineage of the Fisher Kings. Makes a lot of sense. So he initially hesitated to ask the crucial question that would heal the Fisher King's affliction. Learning from this, Parzival continued his quest with newfound wisdom and determination. In some versions, he revisited the castle, asked the vital question, and successfully healed the wounded king, ensuring the continuation of the secret bloodline associated with the Grail. The story of Parzival, however you want to pronounce it, finding the Grail, the Holy Grail, highlights themes of redemption, personal growth, and the pursuit of divine knowledge, showcasing the triumph of virtue and wisdom in the face of challenges within the Arthurian legends. But there is more. There is more, as I mentioned in my book, and I'll mention it again. Are you guys ready for this? So there is a connection between King Arthur and the Anunnaki Magic Grail lineages of the Christed races that came from Lyra. Why do you think the animal emblem of the Holy Grail has always been the lion? Why do you think that, as opposed to the serpent? Because the lion is the symbol, the symbology of Lyra, all right, where the Grail came from. See, everything is off-world. Both bloodlines originated off-world from, again, other planets. Well, we do know, according to my book and according to my research and from what I've discovered, that this Earth originated in the eighth dimensional system of Lyra as planet Avion. So we do know that the original Earth, which was planet Avion, eighth dimensional Earth, was where all humanity had their origin, including all the other human-like ETs, right? All right, so let me continue. So King Arthur was embodied as a ruby sun DNA strand. Let me start again. Hold on one second. The Grail line of the ruby sun DNA are also referred to as the indigo children and hold a hybrid diamond sun DNA template that is the result of hybridization made between, I guess, the Elohim and the Lyrans. So who are the Elohim? The Elohim were the original Christed races that came from Harmonic Universe 5. Okay, so representatives of the guardian host, such as King Arthur and his Templar team, well, there you go. There's the connection between King Arthur and the Knights Templars, who are, by the way, the modern day White Hats. They have to be. As well as Guardian Akhenaten chose to embody in a ruby sun DNA template when they came to Earth in order to help reclaim and restore the fire letters and the time vector codes that were stolen from the Grail line specifically. The DNA template was hijacked, in which its coding was used to engineer the 911 timelines based upon hijacking of the 9D and 11D Diamond Sun DNA coding inherent in the Ruby Sun DNA template. The remaining pure lineages of the Ruby Sun DNA imprint exist on the Earth and off-planet, to which they are in alignment with the cosmic sovereign law of one, in service to others' potential evolution, to be able to choose spiritual freedom for themselves, and to be released from reincarnation into the AI timelines in the lower densities. This is pretty intense. So apparently the Magi Grail lineage could be traceable back to Lyra, where it originated all the way up when Earth was Arimatena, 11D, 12D Earth, according to the Ascension Glossary. And you guys could read about this in the Ascension Glossary, okay? All right, so the whole point is that Avalon, again, that's another connection to the Knights Templars and King Arthur. Avalon, well, the Mist of Avalon. What do you guys think the Mist of Avalon was? It was a planet that existed in Lyra, right? We had Avion, which was the 8th D Earth, and then we had Avalon, which was, some believe it was the 60 Earth. And then we also had, what other planet? Vega, right? And then several other planets. I mean, the whole point is that this Holy Grail lineage, which is represented by the lion, right? That's why we have the Sphinx in Egypt, which means that the Holy Grail went through Egypt as well. And I strongly believe that there was a powerful connection between the Holy Grail of Zeus. Again, all roads lead to Zeus when it comes to this divine grail, because even Zeus was a descendant of what? The original Anuhasi lineage that originated in Sirius B. All right? So I believe that Osiris, the descendants of Osiris and the descendants of Zeus, had to merge in order to create a more powerful strain that led to King David, Solomon, and whoever their descendants are today. So their main teachings that they have always protected from the organized, corrupted Orthodox religions is the concept that God is a nurturing principle. It is feminine. So even we see these teachings surfacing in extensions of the Knights Templars, like the Brotherhood of the Rosicrucians. All right. If you really study the deeper teachings of the Rosicrucians, which, by the way, was organized by Christian Rosencrantz. Christian Rosencrantz was another member of the Knights Templars, by the way, believes that at the core of all these teachings lies the Great Mother, right? The veneration and worship of who? The Black Madonna. Why do you think they call her the Black Madonna? Because it was their way of keeping that a secret, that they really worshipped Mother God. In the face and during the midst of the Dark Ages, when the patriarchy and the Vatican was taking over Europe, where they almost had absolute control of Europe. So that's why we get the concept of the Black Madonna. It's not because they were worshiping a black woman. No. They were worshiping the Mother Goddess in secret. Okay. And what is one of the common threads that a lot of the Grand Masters in the Knights Templars, right, that were protecting the priority of Zion, which now we know it's the lineage, the bloodline, what was one of their common threads? They were all into esoteric metaphysical knowledge. They all studied the occult. They all studied metaphysics. They all studied about immortality, activation of the light body. All right. To give you an example, Leonardo da Vinci was a member of this group. Leonardo da Vinci was a genius. All right. And I think he actually invented time travel too. I think him and Tesla are working together. All right. Tesla would be a member of this organization in modern times, of course. But who else was a member? Isaac Newton. All right. And many others like, Galileo Galilei and Copernicus. And of course, we know that Joan of Arc was also related, right? Perhaps she was one of those many descendants, Joan of Arc, another hero in medieval times. So the whole point is this, that their descendants survive today, that the dark side is losing, and that they can't stop what is coming. A new world is upon us. And when we watch movies like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and Chronicles of Narnia, they all have one thing in common, guys: the return of the original rulers, which is the descendants of the original Grail, the return of the righteous kings and queens of old. All right. And according to this article, they're all spread throughout the world, right? Just almost 898 of them exist here in the United States. It could be any one of you guys. All right. It could be any one of you guys. So with that have said, now that we know that there is a connection between the White Knights of old, as the Knights Templars, and modern day White Hats, Earth Alliance, we could better understand the fact that the good guys have always been here. It's just that they've been operating in the shadows, fighting these, malicious groups or other secret societies, the Luciferian ones, allowing us to come to this, to be here at this time, right? At the end of the cycle. Because if it wasn't for the good guys throughout history, for example, if the Knights Templars didn't exist as the White Knights during medieval Europe, we would have never made it into this modern times, okay? So everything happens for a reason. So with that in mind, I've been speaking for about 42 minutes. I'm ready to take some questions. If you guys want to put them in capital letters, that would be great. I want to welcome all 947 people that are on here. Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please do me a favor. That'll eliminate all my copycats and all those pirated channels that are stealing a lot of my subscribers. One of them is almost at 56,000 subscribers. If those people only knew that YouTube channel isn't me, nobody tells them anything, guys. So please subscribe to my channel so that way we could, beat the other channel and get him eliminated eventually. All right, so I'm going to take some questions now. And I'm actually going to take the questions from my phone. All right, so I have questions here. Should I start at the bottom? All right, so we do have a question from Colleen. Colleen Cuddington, thank you so much for being here. How you doing? Colleen, I actually met you during my book tour. Question, Ismael. Would you equate the Holy Spirit to prime source unified field? Absolutely. Yes. I've said this before and I'll say it again. The Force in the Star Wars trilogy is no other than the unified field, the universal intelligence, cosmic consciousness. It's all one and the same. The Holy Spirit, according to the native indigenous traditions, the Great Spirit, different terminologies, quantum singularities, right? Chi, according to the Eastern teachings, they all know it under a different name. It is everywhere. It is the sum total of all living, biotic, organic organisms put into one big oversoul. It is the mind of the all, the great spirit of the one in which we're all expressions of. That was a great question, Colleen. Any other questions? Can you please do talk on the future after the flash? Well, the future, there's a lot of great things that are going to be taking place in the future. But of course, first we're going to have to win that war, that final war against Omega, the AI god, Enki and his entourage, and then of course the cybernetic AI timeline. So once we win that war, I'm going to leave it up to your imagination. But I give you a glimpse of what happens after the ascension in the last chapter of my new edited edition, Our Cosmic Origin. If you haven't read it, please do. Okay, so I'm going to answer more questions. Dale Ellis says, Ishmael, thanks for the summary. You're so welcome. All right, any questions? Throw them at me. Yes, Marilyn Moyer. Thank you for being here, Marilyn Moyer. She says, the gypsies worship the Black Madonna in south of France. That's true. And so did the troubadours of Spain, and so did the Cathars. Think about it. The Cathars flourished for 200 years in France before the persecution of the Knights back in 11 or 1200 AD. And the Cathars were a very flourishing spiritual community. And at the central, and their central worship was the Mother Goddess, by the way. So that is so true. Ariel Gonzalez is saying, I'm finishing up Ishmael's book, which is mind-blowing. Thank you, Ariel. No, Aureli. I'm sorry, Aureli Gonzalez. Sorry about that. Thank you so much. Do you guys have any other books on the same topic you recommend? Actually, I do. I strongly recommend to, now this book is even denser than mine. It's called The Keys of Enoch, the Book of Knowledge by J.J. Hortak. That's right. Dale Ellis says, the good guys have always been here. Laura Ann Brown is asking, hi, Laurel. Thank you for being here. Rh negative blood. Is that part of the Holy Grail? I believe it is. I believe it is because by virtue of not having the primitive gene means that you were part of that interbreeding bloodline that could be traceable back to King David and Solomon. And that explains why, Enlil Sus, right, who was the progenitor of that race, the early Hebrews and the bloodline, the Holy Grail. Why do you think Enlil Sus prohibited the early Israelites from mixing with the Canaanites who came from Babylon? Because they were trying to prevent them from inheriting reptilian genetics. They were trying to keep their bloodline pure. And of course, primitive genetics. And we do have a super chat from Cosmic Goddess. Thank you so much for that. Greetings, Ishmael. Are the indigo star seeds from the same bloodline as Princess Diana? Absolutely, yes. That is correct. Marilyn Norton is asking, how far back does Saint Germain history go? I think Saint Germain. All right, let me reveal something. Okay, so when Atlantis fell, there was a group. They were called the Council of 12 Magicians. Right, there were 12 Melchizedeks that were assigned the protection of this earth, and Saint Germain was one of them. So that happened as a result of Marduk, Belial, Baal, and Enki taking over the affairs of our world. There was a council that was set upon by the higher forces to kind of like work from behind the scenes. So Saint Germain is one of those 12. He belongs to the Council of Wizards. And those are the good wizards, by the way. The ones that, have always been known to protect the Holy Grail. All right. So in the Hinduism, this is from Gia 5G Peace Lower. In Hinduism, they acknowledge millions of gods, and they have one day a year to clean all the machines and offer prayers to that god of machines. What? God of machines? I didn't know this about the Indians. In Hindu, samana means things, objective, machine. Well, that could be another correlation, because for those that are following my work, you do know that Samana was the one that was the first to create AI in the 11th creation, right? Before he became Lucifer. All right, so this is another question from Letty Train Salt. Letty Train Salt. The adopted father of Jesus, Joseph, has the bloodline of David. How does Jesus carry the actual bloodline? Well, it is believed that he got it from his mother Mary. Mary is the one who comes from the lineage of Solomon and King David. I don't think it's Joseph. I think that's where the Bible, they re-edited things to make it look like it was Joseph who was the carrier, but no. And the only reason Mary was picked to be impregnated by no other than Gabriel, right? An archangel could impregnate, just like the Nephilim, all right? Let's go back. Just like the fallen Anunnaki were able to impregnate human beings, earth humans, so are the celestials, the archangels, and the good guys. They're also able to impregnate, but only due to the fact that they have to carry a high concentration of mitochondria. And for somebody like Mary, who is of the lineage of the Holy Grail, who comes from the lineage of Zeus, right, a pure celestial stock, she was chosen. So these immaculate conceptions continued, by the way, throughout history, throughout the lineage of the Holy Grail. Every time a female, right, it's always through the line of the mother. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because at the core of these teachings, the great mother is God. And that's why I'm wearing my Ankh today instead of my cross, because the Ankh represents the circle of fertility, Mother God, and then in unity with Father God. So for those that were hating my Christian cross, see, I switch it around. These are all gifts. So now I'm wearing my Ankh. My Ankh is as a reminder to honor the sacred divine feminine. All right. Let's see. There's more questions, huh? We got 10 minutes left, guys. So throw questions at me. Teresa McIntyre said, I just ordered the new edition. Right on, right on. Oh, you're going to love it, Teresa. Just read it really slow from chapter to chapter and allow the information to just, touch your core. We have another super chat from Joyful. Thank you so much, sister. Did you forget about my question about the picture of the spaceships above my home? um, it's not that I forgot. I just get so busy. But Joyful, I get so many DMs every day. I would have to rewind my what is it called, my request, and find your message. So if you could do me a favor and send those pictures again to my Instagram, I'm going to go ahead and look at that. But chances are that they are probably spaceships. All right. And then, of course, we have a super chat from Sandy. Hi, Sandy. Thank you for being here. Share on when and how Princess Diana and JFK Jr. will return. Where are they currently? All right. So that's a very good question. Right now, well, I'm starting to question this guy, whatever his name is, Juan O'Savin. All right. I don't know. I don't think that the real JFK would be going on interviews in order to protect him. But I do believe that he did survive, and I do believe that he's coming back. I was informed by insiders that were, part of the secret space program, that he was off-world for about 20 years before he returned. And the reason he had to go off-world was to protect him. And I also heard that Princess Diana went off-world. All right. Remember, guys, the Knights Templars, as they unearthed Solomon's temple, they already had access to anti-gravity aircraft and advanced technologies, because Solomon knew about all that 4,000 years ago. Solomon had already access to a lot of this stuff that they're using in the secret space programs. And some believe that Solomon was the one who created the Tartaria Empire, which was a global civilization before it fell. That's another thing to consider. Using, of course, advanced technology. So, to answer your question, they're going to return very, very soon. Cosmic Goddess, thank you so much for your super chat. Another question. Let's see. All right. Northern Light is asking, are the archangels Elohim? They were the original archetypes. Yes. So from what I understand is Prime Creator Source first has, children, and those are the original archetypes. So first Prime Creator Source, or what we call Mother, broke off into 12 or 7 distinct aspects, which became the 7 mighty Elohim, or the 7 major archetypes. And then each archetype also broke off into 12. So each archetype gave us the 12 Elohim, which are the archangels. And then each archangel also broke off into different angels. And then each angel broke off into further angels. And then finally, we came into being. So we are part of that descent, of celestial descent. That's where we come from. According to Theosophy, we are the 10th generation. Yeah, we're the 10th generation born from this cosmic descent that started off with Prime Creator, the 7 archetypes, the 12 archetypes, or the Elohim. The Elohim had angels, and the angels had us. That's the best way to put it. I would love to collab with Teal Swan. Also, what happened to Janet Osborne? I don't know who she is. And Ashayana Dean. I've heard about Ashayana Dean. Everybody keeps telling me that Ashayana Dean has very similar information to what I've been revealing, but we explain it differently. I really don't know. I met her husband at one of the conferences, and I was, I don't know. I heard that she could have been infiltrated. I'm not sure, but I don't know what's going on with them. And Teal Swan, I would love to collaborate with her. So if you guys could message or write it in her comments, hey, do a live with Ishmael Perez, that would be great. I mean, I've heard of Teal Swan, and she's got amazing information as well. I agree with a lot of the stuff she says, too. No, Andrea Nardizzi said, I thought Christ was born in September. No, the truth is that he was born sometime in the spring, by the way. And then Sylvia Vidal, thank you so much for this chat. Hi, Ishmael. If a young child stays in a lower dimension and the parents go to the 5th, how is the child going to be taken care of? I think it'll be the other way around, Sylvia. I think it's more likely for a child to make the shift into the higher frequency Earth than the parents. But let's just say that the child is just straight out evil. Well, that child is going to experience another 3rd dimensional Earth on a different, solar system that is still undergoing a dark age. Unfortunately, for those that don't make the shift, they're going to be recycled into another 3rd dimensional Earth-like reality. That's, of course, if they don't align and choose to integrate with a machine. Because if they do that, then we know, of course, they're going to go into the AI dystopian timeline. Marilyn Jacobson says, I believe the 5th dimension is a heavenly place where we can see our discarnated relatives and dogs and cats in spirit. Well, it's a different form of type of matter. It's not. See, most people think that reality in the higher dimensions is this vaporous, etheric reality. It's not. It is as physical as our reality. It's just energy vibrating at higher frequencies, and the matter is less dense. So we're still physical all the way up until the 11th, 12th dimension, and then we cease to be physical. Even the crystalline structure still projects itself in a material form, but it's matter that is less gross and more subtle, and of course, which means that it lasts longer. You could live for hundreds of thousands of years in the same avatar, right? When you're using crystalline structure as opposed to carbon based. So it's different, but it's still physical. And yes, we're still going to have intercourse. We're still going to keep our body parts, right? So, SEX in the higher dimension is going to be by far more powerful than it in the third dimension. I want to welcome all 1,010 people that are on the live today. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to take a few more questions before I exit the live. All right. Wait, here's another chat, a super chat from Marilyn Sinquinani. Marilyn Sinquinami. You guys have some interesting names here. That's Sinquimani. I'm trying to pronounce her name, Marilyn, but thank you so much for the super chat. All right, so somebody wants to know about Mormonism. Well, the Mormons, okay, so everybody's genealogical records that go back to thousands of years, in fact, that go back to the original Sumerian king list to see who is who, all right, thousands of years, 10, 15,000 years ago. All of those records were, again, another of the secrets that were unearthed deep within Solomon's temple. Those records were meant to be inherited by the Knights Templars as opposed to the Vatican cabal. Eventually, the Knights Templars, when they reorganized as the Masons, a part of that organization fell in the hands of Joseph Smith. So Joseph Smith was the one who had access to the depository of those records. And it is believed that those records, right, that reveal everybody's genealogy going back to thousands of years ago are kept somewhere in the Utah mountains in a vault by Joseph Smith. And of course, we do know that his successor, Brigham Young, corrupted the church. But luckily, Joseph Smith didn't give Brigham Young access to those records. Those records are supposed to also conceal the descendants of the Holy Grail. So the Mormons are very much into the deep, inner mysteries. They have two forms of teachings. They have a general interpretation for those that go to church every Sunday, and then as you ascend in what they call the hierarchy of the church, right? As you become an elder, and as you become a regional overseer, and perhaps even whatever, there's so many ranks that you could ascend within the Mormon hierarchy. They teach you the true mysteries of the universe, and even how eventually we're all going to go off and become our own gods and oversee our own creations in future cycles of time. That we're gods here in the making. In other words, the Mormons teach this, by the way. They call it the deep doctrine. And this was information that was preserved by Joseph Smith. So anyway. So yeah, Joseph Smith was the inheritor of these genealogical records, which are, by the way, inside the Utah mountains. I can't reveal which ones. All right, so we do have another super chat from MJF. Thank you so much with your little cartoon doing a little happy dance. Thank you. All right, I'm going to take one more question, guys, and then I got to go and get my laundry. Sharon the Red Baron says, OMG, I know about the secret place in Utah. It's in Cottonwood. Oh, I'm not going to say it. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Lyra have different lords. Lyra has the original 12. Again, the whole concept of the 12, the round table, the knights of King Arthur, the courts of Camelot. Jesus had 12 apostles. Mary Magdalene had 12 Magdalenes, right? It is written in the Sophia Pistis. She even wrote her own gospel, by the way. So it all goes back to the original Council of 12. Right? Zeus was at the head of the pantheon of the 12 Greek gods. By virtue of what? Of being a high concentration of the original Lyran Syrian bloodline, which was the Holy Order of the Grail, that was brought to the earth by Zeus Enlil. And that explains why many people in the disclosure community want to make him look like the bad guy, when we do know that Satan was no other than Marduk Belial Baal, and Enki was the great trickster, or what we call the descendant for the lineage of Lucifer. True Blue for You says, such great person shouldn't have to be occupied doing laundry. Guys, I'm also human, all right? I have to deal with the human condition. If I don't do laundry, I'm not going to have clean socks or underwear or clean clothing to wear, all right? I have to get things done. I live in a small little apartment. I don't live lavishly. I don't have servants, all right? I'm a humble guy. I do things for myself, just to let you know. Thank you, Marilyn, for the donation. And also, Atri Kazamian. Atri Kazamian, thank you so much for your donation and for the number one. Hi, Ishmael. Much love and thanks a lot for your great knowledge. I'd like to admire your patience and welcome while interviewing Carrie Cassidy. Thanks for your inspiring kindness. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, like I said, I don't have nothing against Carrie Cassidy. I think she's just who she is. She's like that with everyone. But yeah, thank you so much for watching that interview. And don't forget to watch the other interview with Underground Patriot. I mean, that guy really drills me and he really gets a lot of information out of me. All right. And most importantly, he lets me speak. He doesn't interrupt. So I go on and I speak for like 15, 20 minutes at a time. And then he asks the next question. So make sure you guys watch that interview. It's the interview I posted, I think, yesterday. It says Ishmael Perez interview with a YouTuber that was banned. That is the name of it, okay? Make sure you watch it. I also want to thank Sky Davidson for her donation. Thank you so much. I was coming to see you in St. Louis. It was the meetup closest to me, hoping still to speak with you. I know you are busy. I have texted and DM'd you. Sky Davidson. Oh, thank you so much, Sky, for doing so. I'm going to go ahead and look for your DMs. Again, guys, sometimes I get so busy that I don't have time to engage in social media. So please be patient with me. All right, I think that's it. Any more questions? I guess that's it. All right, guys, with that in mind, I will go ahead and close today's live. And don't forget to watch my interview with Underground Patriot. It was really, really good, all right? And then I'm also going to be posting my prediction regarding 2024 tomorrow. Stay tuned for that, guys. That's going to be a very powerful video. And I also want to thank Karen Stanton for her super chat. She says, thank you so much for all these fabulous teachings you bring. How can I get your revised book other than Amazon? So you could only get it through Amazon. And at the end of each interview, I put the link in the description where you could just press the link and that'll give you access to my second edition, the new edited version with the edited chapter that talks about what happens after the ascension. All right, guys? It gives you at least a brief understanding of what happens after the ascension. Oh, well, I guess Jeanette Dean is also giving me a super chat. Thank you so much, Jeanette. What about the Elohim, good or bad, or both? Well, in a universe of duality, right? The Elohim were the original archangels, right, who gave birth to the angelics. Within those ranks, some of those decided to disconnect from unity consciousness. So those that decided to disconnect from unity consciousness became the fallen ones, the fallen Elohim. And eventually that's why they resorted to artificial intelligence in order to compete with Prime Creator Source. But so you have the good ones who remained loyal to Prime Creator Source, right? And then you have those that betrayed the law of unity consciousness and the oneness of everything, the sacredness of everything, that decided to explore duality. And those are known as the fallen ones. So you have two types of celestials and different functionaries, by the way, because there's different orders of angels. Again, we are considered the 10th generation, beginning with what? Prime Creator breaking off into the 7 archetypes. So we're the 10th generation from that. But yet, we're also the ones that have and carry the greatest potential. So with that in mind, may the God Force be with you guys always. And I will see you guys Friday night at the same time, all right? Talk to you guys then. Thank you. Bye.